Good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to be here. What I want to share today is the journey that my organization, the Washington State Department of Health, is taking around turning our organization outward. And to be clear, I'm one of you. I'm a newer facilitator, and this is a new journey for our organization. Again, my name is Jessica Todorovich, and I serve as the Chief of Staff. In that role, I like to say I'm responsible for everything operational in our organization. We have about a little under 2,000 employees spread across the state, and we do some amazing work every day. But we can do better work. So I'm here to talk to you about the journey we're taking to get there. So, like many of you, I started my journey with a book. One of our office directors gave me Outward Mindset, and I was on an airplane with some coworkers flying from Seattle to Sacramento to a Bon Jovi concert, of all things. And the CFO was sitting next to me, and I think I elbowed her to death because I was reading, and I was like, look at this, look at Chip, look at Hal and Malali, look at all these people, look at what they're doing. And that was my moment that I realized this is something I wanted to be involved in. Brought it back to our organization. I was really lucky because that office director was involved in a really large project, the Washington Disease Reporting System. Anybody experienced what I like to call an IT project from hell? Anybody been there? That's what this is. It sort of pains me to see it, but we're here. This was an IT project. It is millions of dollars over budget. It is years over the timeline for implementation. And the office director who had this book was part of the business side of this project. And the director decided to step up and use the Outward Mindset training as an opportunity to bring IT and business together to figure out if they could work through this project. And what they discovered very quickly, it's not about development, it's not about IT solution problems, it was about the people and business and IT staff not being able to work together. So this is the actual dashboard that is in my director's office for this project. The danger, I've edited it, actually reads something much worse in his office. And that arrow has been on that side for a really long time. Happy to report, after the work that I saw these teams do around Outward Mindset, it has moved. And my favorite story about seeing that is we have some open space in our agency that is not for anybody particularly to sit in. It's for people to come and drop down. And this group, the IT staff and the business staff, recently I had to get involved in an argument because they had cordoned off a part of this so they could sit together and work through the final stages of this project. And others were mad about that. And I thought that was the best problem I ever had to solve because these people wanted to work together. So for me, it went from reading a book to seeing practical application very quickly. And that's when I realized we have some huge mountains to move in our agency. Things like the opioid crisis in our state. We have diseases coming back that are vaccine preventable, like measles. And we have a crazy large access to care issue, both for behavioral health and mental health. These are things that are affecting the people in Washington State every single day. Our suicide rate is one of the highest in the country, partially related back to the opioid crisis. And I started to realize that if this could work on an IT project from hell, it might be able to work on some of these other things. I'm really lucky. I have a really great leadership group at our organization. And we sat down together and we made a commitment recently, about 6 months ago. The executive team, the agency leadership team, and our deputies, 26 of us got into a room and we made the agreement that we were going to use Outward Mindset as our core culture and performance strategy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the start of that journey and then where we're going to go in the future. This is going to look really familiar to all of you, or at least most of you. We are trying to do this the right way. So when we think about the mindset change, what we're really talking about there is the training. We will have all 2,000 employees trained by January, and we will have all of our leaders trained in outward and supervisors trained in outward leadership by the end of the fall. So we are really pushing for training across our organization, but recognize that's one Very small part, as we heard Jim talk about yesterday, but we're excited to see that milestone met. This will also include sustainment processes across our organization. Behavior change, for us, that is all about supervisors and leadership. It's about that core mid-management level in the organization who work so hard and often find themselves stuck between trying to help their employees and deal with all the stuff coming down from the top of the organization. So really thinking about what is that higher level of responsibility supervisors and leaders have to create an outward organization. And finally, systems. How are we going to pick those large systems in our organization, onboarding, performance management, recruitment, that are really going to change the how in which we do our work? So we are starting on that journey. But one thing I want to share is that we don't hate our culture today. We've got some really great aspects of our current culture. And what I'm finding is there's a really great opportunity to make the connection between the principles and the foundations of outward mindset with some of the culture things we're doing in our organization today. These are our babies. So we have an Infants at Work program. We've had it for a couple of years now. We are about to hit our 100th baby in the workplace. It's a fabulous program. Highly encourage it. When we started this program, we're a public health organization, so it's not hard to think about the benefits. Parent-child bonding, healthy starts, encouraging breastfeeding. These are things that we care about in the communities that we serve, and so it's really important to model that in our organization. But there's something much more important happening with these babies in the workplace, and that's seeing others, and that's creating a sense of humanity in our organization. I can't tell you how many times I get stopped by somebody in the hall who says, yeah, I've liked working here, and I know my coworkers and they're okay, and then we had a baby come in. And now we're family, and we know each other in a different way, and we see each other in a different way. So there's been a really nice connection between those activities and the work we do around our infants in the workplace and the foundation we're trying to set with outward mindset principles. Again, we're a public health organization. This is one of our movement stations. We have them across the state in all of our offices now where you can check out and you can do your work for about an hour while you're moving and get your steps in if you calculate those. And for us, it's not just about physical health. In fact, that's one small component. When we really think about what we're talking about, whole health, what we need for our employees is things like emotional health, financial health, mental health. And when I think about the foundation that we're laying with outward mindset around the principles of seeing each other and about creating that humanity connection in the organization, we believe that emotional and mental health of our employees will be better because of it. So when our secretary arrived 6 years ago, he's an incredible person, and he brought with him this concept of bring your whole self to work. And believe me, I've heard all kinds of stories about what this means in our organization. And it really wasn't until we started talking about outward mindset that for me it came home the best way to describe it. When you think about it, it's about sharing your identity, bringing who you are into the workplace. And that might be your education, it might be your experience, it might be things from your parents that you learned, your culture, your identity, whatever that might be, and being able to share that. And one of the things that's so powerful of that is it does create a sense of belonging. And again, I think seeing others and that concept of making those connections really fosters and allows people to bring their whole selves to work. And why do we want that? We want our employees to have a sense of belonging. But what's really important about that is we think if we do that in our organization, we will so much better serve the people of Washington State who need our help. So that's some of the work we're doing around culture. So I will say I think we're better at culture than performance right now. So this is very new stuff for us when we think about how are we really tracking and thinking about our performance. So we're creating an organizational health index, trying to identify how do we know that we are on target around our performance. And one of the things that we've realized is we're going into each of these areas and we're creating indicators that we'll use to visually track our performance. So every time we're looking at our performance, we're not just looking about the outcome of how many licenses did we produce and how fast did we get those licenses done, but we're looking about the how we did it and were we outward in the approaches we took and how we did that work. So we're excited about this piece of work that we're working on. The idea being that if we work on this culture and performance activity, we are going to achieve maximum organizational health with outward principles being built right into the work that we do. We'll have an outward culture. We'll be looking at our operational performance, our financial employee performance, and our customer performance. And for us, that customer performance is really important, especially as we think about being outward in the work we do. We have the incredible opportunity as an organization to touch every single person in Washington State multiple times throughout their life. And so really making sure we're doing that in an outward way is incredibly important to the success that we have as an organization. So the future. We decided long ago we wanted to do a more transformational plan, so it's not very tactical in nature. These are our large transformations that we're going to be working on. So we have our vision and mission, and what you'll see in our values is I think you're going to see that we have built in a number of different areas where outward mindset principles are just built into the values of our organization. When you think about human-centered and equity, 7 generations we've borrowed from our tribal partners, and we've had some great conversations with them about the concept, and for them what it means is you're in your current generation, you're looking back 3 generations, honoring the past and where you've come from, and you're looking forward 3 generations to what you're leaving and the path that you're setting going forward. And that's very powerful when I think about seeing others, because you're not just seeing them in the moment, but you're seeing their history, you're seeing their past, you're honoring their past. And when I think about impact, we're not talking necessarily about the immediate impact that you're having. You also need to think about the long-term impact that you're having on future generations. And you'll see our large transformations. I'm sure your eyes are drawn to outward organization. It's one of our 4 transformations that we've selected, and we actually believe it's kind of the foundational one, because if we do that right, it will build in and actually support and accelerate the work in our other transformations. Some other work that we're doing, don't get me started on this is my soapbox. We are changing our physical environment. We've been in the process for the last couple of years of starting work around what we call modernizing our environment. Part of that is for our work with the governor's office around climate change and reducing our footprint. But more than that, it's actually creating the physical space that allows people to do their best work. And when I think about outward mindset and what we're trying to get our employees to think about, I think our physical environment can create barriers and opportunities. So as we're designing our new modern space, we're thinking about how do we create the environment where you actually see others, like actually see them. Because I don't know about you, but if you're in a cube or if you're in an office, guess what? You're not actually seeing people. So that physical manifestation of the principles I think is really important. I myself, as the chief of staff, haven't had an office for a few years now. I'm mobile. Our secretary's mobile. None of my leadership team or executive members have their own offices. We are all mobile. We share workspaces, and we, kind of just sit down wherever we go. And these are some of our spaces. I think that's really important when we think about seeing each other and we think about the humanity and the impacts. Like, you can actually see the impact you're having. I send an email. I watch John, my boss, get it, and I can see how he accepted that email or not. Let me tell you. So I want to talk about a couple of other really large initiatives that we're working on our agency and how I think outward mindset will really accelerate this work. In the public health arena, being a trauma-informed organization is something that most organizations are working towards at this point, and really eventually trying to get to a healing organization. This is work that we're doing, and it's not easy work. It's thinking about how do we meet people where they're at. In order to do this for the people in Washington, we got to do it as an organization first and meet our employees where they're at. For me, there's such great connection between thinking about seeing others and the impacts we have on them and thinking about how we become a trauma-informed organization. And this just takes it a little bit deeper, right? So this isn't just seeing the other person as maybe what they're dealing with today, but also thinking about the trauma that they may have experienced. And when we think about it, that can be really broad. That can be trauma that they experienced in their childhood, could be something that you don't really know about. I think really getting comfortable and understanding how trauma can impact people's importance. So we're excited to see how Outward Mindset is going to accelerate this work. And finally, if there's one thing that I think Outward Mindset will do for us is I think it will accelerate greatly the work we're doing around equity, diversity, and inclusion. We're at a point, and just hearing that award and hearing that person's experience just really drives home for us when we think about public health and we think about health equity. You hear those years, you hear 1960s, you hear 1970s. Well, we're here in 2019, and I'm here to tell you that in all your states, we don't have health equity. We're not even close in some places. And until we can do that, we are not going to be able to provide the public health resources and solutions that we need to have healthy communities. And look at these poor outcomes. If we don't address things like societal racism, institutional racism, both as our own organizations as well as those around us, we are not going to achieve good health outcomes. And for us as an organization, recognizing that when you have an employee and you're thinking about seeing them, again, you have to look deeper than just seeing them in the moment and what their needs are and what their objectives are in the moment, but also thinking about how they may be impacted by things like institutional racism and experiences that they've had as maybe in a historically marginalized group, whatever group that may be. And we really can't afford not to do this, because what we're looking for are these outcomes. And when I think about what every person in Washington State deserves, they deserve to have health equity and they deserve to have good health outcomes. And that's part of our responsibility to figure out how to make that happen. I was talking, we had a group of us went to the governor's office and met with Governor Inslee a couple years ago, and he said something to me that stuck with me so strongly. He said, "If not now, when? We have huge mountains to move, and we need to do it right now." And that stuck with me, because what it really says is, as a public servant in Washington State, we have the privilege and we have a huge responsibility to make sure that we're creating the right environment for the people in Washington to have optimum health outcomes. And so for me, when I think about Outward Mindset, and I think about using that as the how we get there, I'm really excited to see how this is going to be in our organization. And when I talk about health outcomes, what's so incredible is we literally have the power of life and death in our hands, in our organization. When I think about newborn screening, from the very beginning, in the first 48 hours of a child's life, we're the ones that do the testing and identify if they have something that needs treatment immediately in order to live beyond 48 hours. We have an incredible responsibility. And if we do it right and we become an outward organization, then when we think about the partnerships we have in our large public health, governmental public health system, tribes, local health, state, our federal partners, all of our community partners that we work with, that is so incredibly important to be outward in the work we do with them. The trust that we can build, the accountability that we can own, the collaboration that we're doing, the service focus when I think about delivering services to the clients that we serve in Washington, and then our own employees, thinking about how do we create an organization that makes them want to be outward with the people that they serve. And for me, these outcomes, they're really non-negotiable. It's about health equity, longer lives, safe communities, healthy births, poverty reduction in our communities, and healthy children. So not only is it our privilege, but it's our responsibility. And I'm really excited to share with you the journey we're on to use Outward Mindset to help accelerate the work we're doing in these areas. I would love to chat with folks on break, find out what you're doing in your organizations, or share some of our current lessons learned. I think we'll have a lot more. I hope to be back with you over the next couple years, sharing this journey that we're on, and hopefully lessons learned as well as great things that we've been able to achieve in our organization. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you have a great conference.